everyone. Welcome to another edition of our Aquarium's Online Academy. My name is Talia. I'm from our education department. I'm excited to share a little bit of my afternoon with you. So today we're going to be exploring a very particular habitat in our oceans. Today we're going to be exploring our deep seas today. So if you have questions about the deep sea, if there's something you're curious about, you are welcome to text those questions. And we have this number down below on our screen, 562-286-1838. You're welcome to text in those questions if you have any questions while we're live and on the air. If you have further questions, or if later you're like, oh man, I really wish I asked Talia this question, you're welcome to email us instead. And that email address is down below, live@lbaop.org. Depending on when you're watching, we'd love to hear your questions. So again, if you're watching it now, live, 3 o'clock on a Thursday in July, the 17th. You're welcome to text those in. If it's later, you want to email us instead. All right, so let's think a little bit about the deep sea. And I'm curious, when we think about a deep sea, what are some images or what are some thoughts that we have when we think about the deep sea? What do we think it's like down way, 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 way down in the ocean? What are some thoughts? You're welcome to text in some of those thoughts and observations on what are some things we think about in the deep sea. Curious to see what we might discover. Hmm. I know sometimes when I think about the deep sea, since we're going way, way, way down there, I wonder if it's kind of dark down there. I wonder if the light is all the way down. So, what I'm thinking about. Maybe I can have. By the way, I'm not alone in the studio. I have. Oh, perfect. Ooh, nice. All right, I have Edgar and Karina helping me out today, so they're going to be doing some magic behind me, changing all the images, and they're also going to be monitoring that text line if they do have any questions or observations. Okay. Ooh, so it does look like it might be pretty dark down there. I'm going to get off the screen here just so you can see how deep and dark the deep dark sea is. And this looks like we are so, so, so deep in the ocean that we need some special equipment to even see what is down there. So kind of what we're looking at, a couple things. Looks like one, there's a big old mount or rock or kind of this like almost like underwater mountain right there in front of this thing, which is essentially a giant robot that scientists are controlling way up from the surface um, with they kind of piloting it like you pilot a remote control car, which is pretty cool. We had to bring some lights down there to see what are we doing. And then the um, the robot you might have seen in that first picture has a big old rope that is like a big tether that connects it up to the ship. A, so we know where it is, and B, it's also helping bring all the electronics and power to that robot to help them maneuver about. Ooh, fantastic! This is Sebastian, who's on one of a scientist's ship, and this is a big old robot. It's about the size of a real car. I was lucky to see this in person one day, and it's big. It's a big old robot that scientists can use to do a lot of things. One to kind of be their eyes down there, right? Because it's way, way, way down deep and deep. We certainly can't swim down there. We can't even bring a submarine down there, depending on how far we go. So we need special robots to help kind of be our eyes. They're also going to help be our arms too. There's this kind of claw-like little arm here that they can kind of bring out if they need to go look for some samples. Maybe like that. Fantastic. Um, they might go look for some samples. They might need to very delicately pick up something. Maybe they need to put it in a little drawer. Maybe they need put it in a little jar. This is how the pilot is piloting it. So this is kind of their little arm that they're manipulating around, which is pretty awesome. Um, and they will take some samples. Maybe they're putting it in a little drawer in the robot. Maybe they're putting it in a little jar. Sometimes they're taking water samples as they go down and down and down. You guys reading my brain? That's awesome. Okay, yeah, so water samples too. And they'll open up little hatches to be like, I want to take some water here, and then I'm gonna go down a little bit further, and I'm gonna take some water there, and then I'm gonna go down a little bit further and take some more water, and then when I get back up to the surface, all these samples, I can try to figure out what's going on with the water at different depths as the further and further and further it goes down. So yeah, that is definitely one way that we might need to explore the deep, deep sea is by using some special equipment, special tools, some special robots to help us out. So some of the things that animals are facing down in the deep sea is one, it's kind of dark down there. We had to essentially bring big old flashlights to see what's going on down. It's kind of dark because the sunlight doesn't get all the way down. It is cold. So not only is the sun not coming down in terms of sunlight, like light, but the heat's not coming down either. So it's pretty cold down there. Sometimes, if you're near, say, a hydrothermal vent, a place where the crust of the earth is kind of cracked, you might have some super hot water coming out through there, but the surrounding area is going to still be pretty cold. It might be cold down there. It might be dark. Um, There's also just a lot of water. Oh, I think this is one of those kind of smoke. Oh, I see it in the middle here. Thank you. Those are one of those smokers there. So basically, the crust of the earth is kind of cracked open, and you have all this super hot water coming up from the top. But I think what's amazing is even though it's really dark and it's really cold, and there's a lot of pressure, there is a lot of basically just the weight of all the water sitting on top of the animals that live down here, it is 1,000 times more pressure down at the very depth of the ocean than it is us at sea surface up at the beach. So there's a lot of water sitting on these animals. But I think what's just so amazing is that there's still life down here. There's still animals that are doing their thing, and they have these amazing adaptations to help them live in some pretty extreme environments here. Kind of what I'm gonna get out of the way because I think you can see it a little bit better over here. It's a little bit clearer. There's a bunch of worms in these pictures. These kind of white things you're seeing here. These are, I believe, a type of tube worm, is what it looks like to me. I got a big thumbs up from my friends in the back there. So I got some tube worms here, and they have these sort of red parts of their body that they'll stick out of these kind of hard tubes that they are living in, which I think is kind of sand and other stuff that they've kind of hardened around them. But it almost looks like little kind of like lipstick cases here. And they'll have this little red part of their body that comes out, eats, and then comes back down into these kind of tubes that are protecting them a little bit more. Fantastic. So you can find a whole bunch of worms living down in the deep sea. You can find animals that are adapting to not having a lot of light around them. So one, maybe they have, ooh, we can have an anglerfish. That's definitely one. I was thinking also we can have just really big eyes to help us get what little light I might have in there into my eyes to help me out. But you can also, like an anglerfish, like some other animals, you can just make your own light. Bring your own light with you. Bring your own little flashlight with you instead. So some animals can do what we call bioluminescence. So that means they are having a chemical reaction in their body, which is producing light. So the anglerfish does it with the little kind of lure they have on the top of their head. This is an alarm jelly. This is a type of jelly that has some little glowy bits on their body, and they're using it to kind of warm off predators. It's kind of like big kind of flashing lights saying, hey, maybe you don't want to mess with me. If that suddenly appeared to me in the middle of the night, I'd be like, "Ooh, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm not gonna mess with you. I'm so sorry." This is a tiny little shrimp who's probably about like that big. I know it's really big behind me on the screen, but little bitty shrimp. All of a sudden, is gonna make this big old cloud of glowy, kind of mist almost. That would certainly startle me if like, ooh, I am gonna eat this lovely, tasty shrimp, for my meal, and all of a sudden, wow, there's a whole bunch of glowing stuff all around me. I might be startled. And that might help protect me from predators. So animals that glow, animals that do this bioluminescence, they can definitely do it for a bunch of different reasons. They can use it to talk to each other, to communicate, right? Um, they can use it like this shrimp is to avoid predators. They might be again using it to find a mate as well. So there's a lot of different reasons that different animals can make that light to help them see around them. Ooh, I'm gonna get out of the way. Can you remind me what animal this is? I forget. It's a worm. Fantastic. I should have known by its squiggly body. Fantastic. So we can have weird little worms like this out in the deep sea. And again, if you have any questions, my friends, if you are curious about something, if you want to know more about the deep sea, I will do my best to answer them. I'm certainly not a deep sea expert, but I have a lot of friends that I could ask if I could stump. So yeah, please feel free to ask questions if you have questions. Again, that number is below. What? On your screen right there. 562-286-1838. Again, you are welcome to text those questions. So there are a lot of different animals that can bioluminesce, that can um that this is doing something else that's really cool as well. All right, so let me address what's on the screen in just a moment, and then I will get. I see we have a question that's come in, so I'm gonna go answer a question too. Fantastic. All right, so I believe this fish is doing something a little bit different. So they are not necessarily. I know you say there's a lot of green here. This is not necessarily bioluminescing. It's not producing its own light. It is biofluorescing. So sometimes animals, they're not exactly making some green light, but they can take the light that's around them, what little light there is, and then they can basically change that into a different color. And then we sometimes, as humans, we can see this sometimes with if we use special lights. So if you've ever seen glow in the dark stars in somebody's room, if you ever played with a black light flashlight in like a haunted house or something, that's essentially what's going on right now. Is UV is making us see that this fish has some really cool green on their body. And now we as humans can't see that with our own eyes. We have to use a special flashlight or a special light to shine on the animal to see those lights reflected back to us. But we're thinking maybe other animals can see the wavelengths that we can't. Maybe they can see this all the time. And maybe that's a way that they communicate between each other that we're not quite sure why or how they do that. But it's super cool. So some fish can do this. Some sharks can do this. Some turtles can do this. Sometimes it's not just green. I've seen a turtle that's like green and red. It's really cool. So that's another way that animals can produce light in the deep sea. All right, I had a question come in. Somebody was wondering, are the animals clear? And they can be. Definitely being clear is one way to sort of hide in the deep sea. It also helps, especially if we're up at the surface too. Maybe that's another way to hide. But a lot of animals that deep sea are actually bright red. Ooh. And now you might think, hold on. If something's bright red, if I'm thinking about a bright red bird or a bright red car maybe driving down the road, I'm going to see that pretty clearly. How does that help them hide in the deep sea? And this has to do a little bit with how the light is interacting with the water the further down you go. So we perceive colors at different wavelengths, and those are going to change as you go down, 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 down into the deep sea. So the color, oh my goodness, that is a beautiful face. This is such a cool little bumper fish. I'm gonna out of the way so you can see this magnificent animal a little bit better. That's fantastic. All right, but red is actually one of the colors of the rainbow that has the shortest wavelength. So that means that we're going to lose the ability to see the color red pretty quickly the deeper, 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 deeper down that we go. Blue is actually one of the colors with the longest wavelength. So that's why we perceive a lot of water as blue. as we're looking at it, the longest, the deeper down we go. So if we're losing red the quickest, and if you're red way down deep in the bottom of the ocean, you're almost invisible because you can't perceive the color red at the depth where you are. Isn't that cool? So a lot of animals are bright red way down in the deep, deep ocean. Um, that's another way that they can help adapt to these really interesting environments that they are around. Great job. And again, if you have further questions, please, please, please send them in. I am very happy to answer questions about the deep sea. Fantastic. So being red is another way that we can adapt to the ocean. Hi, friend. Oh my goodness, this is a fun little squid. I think this is a bobtail squid, if I'm remembering correctly. Huzzah! All right, I got my deep sea friends down. Hi, little bobtail squid. That is definitely a great. Ooh, I got some. Okay. I got some clarification on my little fish friend from earlier. Okay. Um, Bobtail squid is a great example of having really big eyes. Really big eyes are another way to help them see. And it's really dark. If you're not bringing light with you, maybe you just got big old eyeballs, and that's gonna help you get what little lights around there a little bit better and see just a little bit clearer, having bigger eyes than maybe you and me. It looks like the name of that fish was a chanacops. Chanacops. Okay, awesome. That was my little pufferfish looking friend from before. Great. Okay, so those are definitely some adaptations that help out our animals in the deep sea. Oh my goodness. I don't know what this is, but it is amazing. It looks like a dragon and I love it. I'm getting out of the way so you can see it better. I am guessing it's a fish because I see fins. Is it? Tell me more, my friends. Okay. Ooh, I've never seen this fish before in my life. It's awesome. Okay, so evidently it is called an armored sea robin. Whoa, that looks really cool. Um, and it looks like it has a couple different things to help it out. One, it has big old eyes. Two, it is the color red. So at depth, if there wasn't a big old flashlight shining on this friend, so scientists could see it, probably be practically invisible. I love that I can see a lot of looks like maybe some tendrils or some whiskers or some little sensory friends to help it probably feel around in the sand. I bet by its flat body that maybe it is kind of a little bit close to the ground. It looks like we're pretty close to the ground in this picture. I bet that might help it maybe find some food. Fantastic. So yeah, there are a lot of really cool and interesting animals that live down in the deep sea. I wonder, can we jump back to an anglerfish? I just want to kind of finish um, some thoughts. Okay, all right, we're gonna go on a hunt real quick for an anglerfish picture. But yeah, again, these animals, I think that's just incredible, right? If you're thinking like, wow, this home, this habitat for animals, it's pretty extreme, right? They're dealing with a lot of really challenging conditions. I think it's amazing that there are so many different types of animals that live way down in the depths. All right. So we saw some squid. We saw some worms. We saw some different types of fish. We have anglerfish. I know this is definitely a friend that I think about a lot in the deep sea. So they are kind of using this lure on top of this. And a lot of time they have a little glowy light to help them catch some snacks. So they will have this little glowy light in front of their face, and other little friends might be, ooh, what's this light? It's so pretty. And then they will eat it up. So an anglerfish is definitely a friend that can live down in the deep sea. Another interesting thing about anglerfish is a lot of times when they would catch anglerfish up at during scientific expeditions when they're trying to study them a little bit more, they were finding a lot of girls, and they're like, "Why aren't you finding guy anglerfish? Why aren't you finding male anglerfish? What what gives with that? And that is because the male will actually attach itself to the female and kind of fuse into their body, which is really bizarre. Very different than some other fishes' life cycles and stories. But that's why they were just finding a whole lot of girls, is that the male actually fuses into the female body, which is a little bit unusual, but a very cool again adaptation that make sure that there are baby anglerfish in the future, even when they're living in super extreme conditions. Fantastic. All right. I wonder if we have a little bit of time together. I don't mind exploring maybe another animal or two, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit more about how we explore the deep sea. So I'll have my friend Edgar, if you want to throw up another picture of, ooh, a very cool friend. This is an isopod. This reminds me of like the biggest roly poly I have ever seen in my life. Um, and they're another little deep sea kind of shrimpy friend that has a lot of great kind of armored plates. It almost looks like to help protect them in the deep sea. So yeah, another adaptation that friends have besides being kind of armored a little bit more like a crab or a lobster is they can be really squishy as well. So a lot of the animals you'll find in the deep sea are also gelatinous, meaning they possibly don't have bones in their body. And that they have some really squishy bodies instead to help them deal sort of with a lot of that big uh, pressure. And again, my friends, if you have any questions, we have a little bit of time left. So if you have any questions, if you're curious about anything, again, please feel free to text in those questions. That number is, again, down below on your screen, 562-286-1838. Again, you're welcome to text in questions. If you're curious about anything, happy to answer any questions. Whoa! This friend has a beautiful smile. I love just seeing like all just there's some weird friends in deep sea. But now lizardfish, that is very fitting. It has a very scaly look to them, so that's incredible. I love your big ol' eye. This is just gonna be like Talia admiring deep sea animals and how just unique they all are. Oh my goodness, big eye, big pupil to that eye, right? Helps get in. Light. Big mouth. I wonder what they eat with a mouth that big. I wonder if they open their mouths. If you've ever seen a gulper eel before, those are super cold. They open their mouth super big. Eat some snacks. I I'm thinking those are teeth. Those are amazing. Those are little tiny, thin little teeth. I wonder what they eat with teeth that look like that. And that's actually a way that scientists learn more about fish if they're curious about something. And they might start looking at just really simple things like where is their mouth? Is it in front of their face? Is it below them? Is it big? Is it small? What are their teeth look like? Those are ways we can help explore our world a little bit better, even if, for example, I've never met a lizardfish before. That might be some things I'm curious about to help me explore um, lizard. That might be my homework after we get off the air is to go learn more about lizardfish because those are awesome. Oh my goodness. Um, but yeah, that's a way that scientists explore more is just by asking simple questions and looking at what we can see, making those observations about different types of fish. I think their fins are really interesting. I wonder if they walk on their fins like a lizard. Got a fin up here too, like a dorsal fin. I'm wondering if this is more fins down there, if it's curled somehow. That's cool. That might be my homework, is to go figure out what's up with a lizardfish, because that is a super cool animal. Very neat. All right. Ooh. Speaking of gelatinous animals, this is a fun friend. This is one of my favorite jellies, especially in terms of the way that they look. This is a beautiful jelly. This is called a flower hat jelly. Kind of looks like you're wearing a lovely hat, maybe at a derby. watching a fine horse race. But yeah, this is a flower hat jelly. Now remember we said that some animals, they're not necessarily making their own light. They're not glowing themselves, but they kind of make a different light back at you. That's what this friend is doing here. Do you see all the green little bits and bobs? So that animal is another one of those animals that is biofluorescing. And what's super cool, I think about this one in particular, I could be wrong. Maybe don't quote me on it, but I think this is the animal that they found a way to extract the protein that makes this glowiness. Um, and scientists use that to basically make a marker, not a marker like you write, but a marker like kind of like a signal, um, to use in medicine. So they could use that to maybe put it in a pill, to track how something moves through a body, just by borrowing some protein that they found in this super cool deep jelly. Isn't that amazing? I think that's so cool that we get to learn from nature. So yeah, flower hat jelly is another beautiful animal that lives in the deep sea. Um, and again, is one of those animals that's biofluorescent. All right, Edgar, do you have another fun for me, or some fun tech too? I can go either way. We have a few more moments left. Ooh, that's where all the magic happens. Okay, so this is what it's gonna look like if you're trying to pilot one of those big old robots. So there's a lot that goes into it, right? It's not quite like playing a video game, but there's definitely a big team that's keeping an eye on a lot of different things to help control this big robot. Again, this robot is huge. This robot is the size of a car. It's sitting on a big old scientist ship out in the middle of the ocean. And there's a big team to help move it. So, one, you got cameras all over the ship. This is the back of the ship. You got to get that robot in the water. So there's a big old crane to lift up the robot and get it very slowly, gently into the water. You have lots of different cameras to look around the robot. I think these are offline right now just because it's sitting on the ship. Um, you have, looks like maybe there's some sonar or some radar going down here, and that's probably telling you, hey, the ship is over there, and then the robot, whoop, is over there. So you can kind of keep track of each other. Typically, robots like that are tethered to the ship, so hopefully you're not getting too far away. But that lets you know, hey, you are here. It is there.
This vessel was intentionally scuttled back in 1938, and it's serving us today as a piece of habitat of a known age that deep sea corals will colonize on. So it's been on the bottom roughly 75 years, 76 years.
Usually hotter colors on the maps like this are higher. So this is maybe looking at maybe something that's sloping down that way. It looks like possibly. But yeah, sometimes while something down below is doing awesome cool things,
we've come here.
Really cool animals. You also have the ship on the top, taking some surveys of what's going on underneath its kind of essentially feet, as well, and it's actually helping make better, more detailed maps of the ocean floor as it's going around the water. Well, my friends, I want to thank you. I look like I'm like on the bridge of a ship right now. Essentially, I am, but just virtually. But yeah, I want to thank you all for coming out and hanging out with me, learning more about our deep sea. We talked about a lot today. We talked a little bit about how we explore the deep sea. We use big old robots like this. We have sometimes. We have lots. Ooh, that's another. Okay, so clarification. You can't take this as deep as the robot that we saw earlier, but you could use this to explore a little deep, but not as deep as the robot. Certainly not even as deep as a submarine, because you got peoples in there. So this can only go so far. But this would be I would love to go with this. This sounds like this would be a whole lot of fun. Um, this is another way you can explore the deep sea as well. So yeah, we talked a little bit about how we can explore the deep sea. We talked about what are the conditions down in the deep sea. It's dark. It's cold. There's a lot of water sitting on top of me, so there's a lot of pressure deep down in the sea. We talked about some of the adaptations that animals have. They have big eyes. They can make their own light. Sometimes they're the color red. Sometimes, hello, jelly. Sometimes they might make super cool lights that reflect back to us that scientists are still trying to figure out how or why. Lots of awesome animals live here. This is another jelly called a siphonophore. Anglerfish, all sorts of really awesome friends. So I hope you had some fun exploring this amazing habitat with me. Again, we want to thank you all for coming out and exploring us and sharing a little bit, exploring the deep sea and excuse me, sharing, I can talk, sharing a little bit of our afternoons together. Again, if you have any questions, at this point, I'm going to ask that you email them instead. Again, that email address is live@lbaop.org. So, again, thank you for hanging out with us. Have a great rest of your afternoon, and we'll see you next week, I believe, on Tuesday. So, thank you again, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.